Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Woodlands Church. If you would get up on your feet, let's worship together. In the early light, out of creation, form a feeling. The wonder of this place, inside a sea of grace and healing. You were there in the thick of it. As I said, you came down, made me innocent. Now I'm losing myself in the thrill of it. Oh, come on. The thrill of your love. I could dance with the joy I found. Your love. It's not a man that can drag me down. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I sing until my world's on fire with your love. Caught in the thrill of your love. In the dead of night, your sun brought down the light of the world. And now no sin, no fear could draw me less near to your love. Oh, you were there in the thick of it. As I said, you came down, made me innocent. Now I'm losing myself in the thrill of it. Oh, come on, let's sing it out. The thrill of your love. And I can dance with the joy I found. Your love. It's not a man that can drag me down. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I sing until my world's on fire with your love. Caught in the thrill of your love. Come on, let's get those hands going this morning. Cause in your death I found my life. I'll sing until my world's on fire. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I'll sing until my world's on fire. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I'll sing until my world's on fire. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I'll sing until my world's on fire with your love. And I can dance with the joy I found in your love. It's not a man that can drag me down. No. 'Cause in your death I found my life. I sing until my world's on fire with your love. Caught in the thrill of your love. As I reflect, I find perspective. They're in the best and worst days of this life. You were always on my side. You're in the pain, you're in the promise, and on the days the furnace meets my faith, you're the fourth within the flames. I don't need to know what the future says, 'cause if the past could talk, it would tell me that my God isn't finished yet. If he did it before, he can do it again. So I trust him with what comes next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. There's more ahead than what's behind me. It's through the highs and lows and in between. God, you go ahead of me. And where you call me, I will follow. And if the water folds beneath my feet, it will pull me from the deep. I don't need to know what the future says, 'cause if the past could talk, it would tell me this: my God isn't finished yet. If he did it before, he can do it again. So I trust him with what comes next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. My hindsight says I can trust him with what's next. God I know is known for faithfulness. Oh, 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 oh. I don't need to know what the future says, 'cause if the past could talk, it would tell me this. Come on, let's sing it out. My God isn't finished yet. If he did it before, he can do it again. So I'll trust him with what comes next. 'Cause my hindsight says I can count on this. My God isn't finished yet. If he did it before, he can do it again. So I trust him with what comes next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. And my hindsight says I can trust him with what's next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. Come on, let's sing this out this morning. And I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now, I'm laying it down. And I know that I need you. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. Run to the from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. Run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. Come on, declare this out this morning. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind. Still you give yourself away. Oh, no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, why you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. You know, how you guys doing this morning? Well, everybody have a good Christmas? Ready for the new year? All right, well, we're so glad you're here with us this morning. Why don't you take a few moments and introduce yourself to the person next to you and gather in, get close.
Well, good morning. Welcome to Woodlands Church. We're so glad you guys are here with us. It's going to be a great weekend. Now, if you are with us, whether it's your first time or you've been here for 25 years, we have a Connect card in your bulletin that we would love for you to take a moment and fill out. If you're going to make one change heading into 2020, it's the last weekend of 2019. So if you're going to make some changes in 2020, let me tell you, the first change you need to make is to grow spiritually. All right, to make a habit of getting not only here, but then getting involved and getting connected. And your first step is filling out that Connect card, because we want you to serve on a team. We want you to be in a life group. We would love for you to get involved here at Woodlands Church. That's how you grow spiritually. So fill that out. Drop that in the offering at the end of the service. Now, Pastor Kerry kicks off a brand new series next weekend called Frozen Goals, thawing the barriers that hold us back in life. And I'm telling you, it's going to be an incredible new series, but next weekend is also going to be an incredible time for you and your family, because we're going to have a real snow. It's going to be a frozen wonderland. Frozen 2 is out, and we're going to have all the characters. It's going to be a great time for you and your family, so make sure you are here next weekend, and make sure you invite a friend. It's going to be an incredible time for any and everyone in this community. Yeah.
And then following that, we're going to be starting off the new year with another girls' night and guys' night. We are so excited to be having this event again. If you were not here in October when we had our first ones this last year, they were amazing. We had hundreds of men and women coming, and they were getting connected, growing in community, growing spiritually. Do not miss this event. On January 14th, it'll be here at this campus at 7 p.m. We'll have childcare provided, and do not be confused. It is on the same day, on the same time for guys and girls, but ladies, we're gonna be doing our own thing, and guys, y'all will be doing your thing.
Yeah, guys, we need our own time, so it's going to be great. We're going to be split in that time, but it's going to be an awesome time to invest not only in our ladies and our men, but making sure that you continue to see how it looks to grow spiritually in 2020. So be there, January 14th. Now, Pastor Mark Miller is going to be bringing the message this morning. It's going to be an incredible message about you in 1 year. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy the service.
Well, welcome, Woodlands Church. Good to see you this morning. I hope you had a great Christmas and are continuing to have a great holiday with your family. You know, one of the things that's great about this time of year is there are so many things that are new as we approach the new year. Hopefully you received some sort of new gift or were able to give a new gift to someone this Christmas or build on some new relationships, some connections, and people that came over for Christmas. And there's just such a freshness this time of year as everyone begins to prepare to turn the chapter into the new year, into 2020, as we're approaching that here in just a couple of days. And that newness is an awesome time because it does cause all of us to reflect on what happened in 2019, what happened the year before, and how can we build upon that, or what are some things that we need to change for the next year. It's really what we do anytime that we get something new, right? Do you remember the last time that you got a new car, whether it was a used car you purchased or whatever, but it was new to you and you made some commitment to say, you know what, my last car, things didn't end so well, right? Maybe it started with, I was just going to use the trunk for some storage, and then we ran out of room in the trunk, and so then we started to fill the back seat, and then the passenger seat, and then the center compartment, and before you know it, you had stuff everywhere, and you had to clear stuff out for people to be able to sit, and you would cram in between two cars just to get a good parking spot, knowing that you were gonna get door dings, it didn't matter, and that's the way things were, and your car kind of reflected that at the end of it. But when you traded that bad boy in, and now you have the new car, you made a commitment, didn't you? You're like, you know what, this car is gonna be different. And so you first get that car and you drive it off the lot and you pull into the grocery store for the first time and you park 12 spaces away from the nearest car, right? You'll do whatever it takes to make sure that it's not gonna get its first scratch, its first door ding. It's gonna be protected. You're making sure you wipe your shoes all the time before you get into your seat. Maybe you even leave that little mat that they put down when you get a new car. You leave it in there for as long as possible, right? So that you don't get any dirt on your floorboard. And you carry that over into the new year. You carry that mindset of, this car is gonna be different. And it's true, it is for a few weeks, right? Maybe a month or two. And then what you begin to realize if you're not careful is this whole new strategy you had to take care of your car, that you were gonna have all of its oil changes done on time and keep it clean and wash it once a week or whatever. What you begin to realize is that the desire to treat this new car in this new way is beginning to have an impact on your relationships, right? It's beginning to have an impact on that. You're beginning to see that you become, if you really want to stick to it, if you're not careful, all of a sudden your desire to take this new car and treat it the way that it is getting you in an argument with your spouse, is being like, why can't we just park close to the door? Well, because I don't want to get a door ding on this. Or your kids, it's telling your kids that they, can't get in the car, that they have to take all their stuff off before they get in the back seat and it's cold and they're getting rained on. You're like, I don't care. We're not going to get mud in the car, right? And over time, there's maybe it just gets to a point of where you give up. And all of a sudden, things go back to the way it is, and it's just same old car. Well, what is it? What does it take? And how do we find that balance of bringing good new habits into the new year, and yet also finding that balance of making sure that those new habits accomplish what we're hoping that they will accomplish, that they really will bring the fulfillment that we hope new goals will bring? How do we make them happen, and how do we make sure that they're the right kind of goals that will bring fulfillment? That's really what I want to look at today. Is I want to take a time as we look into what is about to happen as we move into a new year, that we truly allow ourselves as a church to be excited about the new year and what it holds. And I hope that you have had the time to begin to make a list of some things that you want to see change in your life in 2020. That is a good thing. But what I think is also important to do is to look into God's word this morning together and to say, if we are really gonna be able to implement these things that the Lord's been putting on my heart, that I've been putting off for a while, and I'm gonna implement these things into 2020, what are the things that God's word says are necessary to actually be able to bring those things off the page and into the purpose that God has created me for? And so what I want us to do this morning is I actually want us to start a little bit different. And I want us to actually have the opportunity that if you haven't had time to make that list, to put that list together, that maybe for just a moment, whether it's on the back of your sermon notes in your program, or whether it's getting your phone out and putting it in your notes. That's how I remember, is I have to put it in my notes tab in my phone, so that way I can go back and look through that and be able to see that list. But let's take a moment just as a church to reflect through prayer and ask the Lord to show us 2 or 3 things that he's compelling us to implement or to invest into or to change, or a way that we need to be challenged in 2020, and to allow ourselves to put that on in a list, to write that down somewhere, so that hopefully as we look through God's word as to what's necessary to bring that to life this year, that we'll be really ready to make the commitments to step forward on what's necessary to step into the purpose that God has for us this year. So let's pray together and let's ask the Lord to bring those things to heart and to mind. God, we love you. And God, we pray that you would give us the courage to really step into the purpose that you have for us this coming year. And that, God, if that means having some hard conversations and into some relationships that we've been putting off for a long time, that, God, that we would write that down and we would make that commitment to step into what it is that you want us to do. God, maybe for some of us that has to do with our marriage. Maybe we need to make an investment into our marriage. We need to take our spouse on some more dates, or on a getaway trip, or maybe it's to begin to mend some hurts and some wounds, and we need to commit to get into counseling and to share some of what's going on in our hearts and our lives and in our marriage with a trusted couple, with a trusted counselor, and to receive some good counsel into our life. God, maybe it has to do with our extended family, just coming off of the holiday season and having spent some time with family, and maybe some things fell apart, or maybe some old wounds proved to still not be healed. And God, we want to see you move in that relationship. We want to see unity in our families like never before. And so, God, if we need to have some conversations, if we need to step into some relationships there, God, I pray that you would show us what that looks like. Maybe it's just reaching out to someone from our family who we haven't reached out to for a long time, and we went through Thanksgiving and through Christmas without really sharing a single text. And maybe, God, you're trying to inspire us to have the courage to just begin to build a new bridge. God, maybe it's as parents with our kids that you've been compelling us for a long time, that things are beginning to get out of control and we need to implement some new forms of discipline, some investments into their lives because we love them. God, give us the courage to do that in this new year. Maybe it's about spending some more time with our kids, just investing with them, setting some time aside for daddy-daughter dates, or just time with mother and son, connection points, whatever that may be, father-son, mother-daughter. God, help us to be able to really take the time to look at what it takes to set aside some time and to invest in those relationships in a powerful way. Maybe it's about investing into fun in our family, a family trip, figuring out how to budget that in and doing that. God, maybe it's not really about our family at home as much as it's our church family that you're challenging us to do some new things in 2020. Maybe making an investment when it comes to our tithe and our finances, perhaps joining a life group, getting connected and doing life with people who are around us. God, it may have to do with just being here on Sunday mornings and making a commitment to be here as a family, to be engaged. Maybe it's about serving, taking that step to serve on a welcome team or in our kids area or as a life group leader, to really step out and allow you this year, God, to use the gifts and the talents that you've given us to serve your church. God, maybe it has to do with our budget, our finances, being a good steward, figuring out a way to really wade through some debt that hangs over us and to make a commitment to deal with that in a new way in 2020. Maybe it's an investment that you've been putting on our hearts to make for a long time, and that, God, we would have the courage to begin to set the money aside or to step out in faith and make that investment in where you're calling us to invest or to spend or to do whatever. God, maybe it has to do with just our body being more healthy through diet or exercise and getting some things in order that we might be the most prepared husband, wife, daughter, son, have the energy that we want to have to be able to, and the health to continue to invest in the relationships that you've put around us. God, whatever it is that we need to put on our list, I pray that we would allow you to speak into our hearts and to show us the things that we really need to do, not just to improve ourselves, but most importantly, God, really it's not about improving ourselves at all. We want to continue to invest in the things that are going to help us develop a deeper connection with you and a deeper connection with one another and with the people that we love and the people that you've put in our lives, and you've given us an opportunity to have influence in their lives. So God, help us to be prepared. God, maybe we're a student in this room and there's some bad habits, some things that we need to deal with. Perhaps for any of us, there's some addictions, some things that we're ready to finally say no to really put behind us. God, whatever it is that needs to make it on our list, I pray that we'd have the courage to not just make it a mental list, but a physical list, to put it down on paper and to begin to hash through it with you and allow you to bring us into the plans and purposes that you have for us in 2020. We love you, God. We pray that you would just use us in a mighty way as a church like never before. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. You see, building new habits is so very important. It is, because I love what Pastor Kerry says all the time when he says the habits you develop today will determine the person you will become tomorrow. And that's so true, that I think for most of us, we look into the family that we want to be, the person that we want to be. We begin to have these dreams, but the reality is that if we really want to become the person that we feel like the Lord's calling us to be, then the habits, the decisions that we make today as we turn into the new year, the things that we put into place will really help determine whether or not we're able to achieve and see those goals and those purposes come to pass. And I really think that's what Paul was saying in so many of the churches when he had a vision for them, when he would speak into their life, is he would challenge them with that same thing as to why building good habits were so important and why we should build habits and what God has in store for us. So would you stand with me in honor of God's word, and let's look at what Paul said to the person he was mentoring and who was so close to him in Timothy. And in 1 Timothy, he had such an incredible charge. And let me just pause for a moment to welcome those of you who are worshiping with us at one of our campuses in Atascocita or North Point or our online campus. We love you and we feel your presence. Let's look at God's word together. It says this: Paul said to Timothy in 1 Timothy 4, he reminded him, physical training is good. And for a lot of us, our New Year's resolutions stop right there. But training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life, which is true, and in the life to come, something physical training cannot do. This is a trustworthy saying, and everyone should accept it. This is why we work hard and continue to struggle. For our hope is in the living God, who is the Savior of all people, and particularly of all believers. Let's pray. God, we love you. God, we want to learn how to put this truth into practice. God, we want to receive the benefits that you promise in this life and the life to come, that come from living out the purpose and the plans that you laid out for us. Your word says before you created the foundations of the earth. So God, help us to step into that in 2020 like never before, that we might be able to realize and see those promises come to pass. We love you, and we give this day and this year to you. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. You can be seated. Man, what an interesting thing that Paul does here with Timothy is he really begins to address the why. And why is important, right? And I'm a father of 4 boys, and my youngest son, McCoy, is 2 years of age. He's really 2.5. And if you are have been a parent of a 2.5-year-old ever, then you know that where we are about to enter into is the why phase. Not a real fun time, right? Because as a parent, what you want to do is you want to say, like, we set out with this initial goal. It's like, I want to be that parent that really takes time to answer all the meaningful questions that my 2.5-year-old might have about the deepest meanings of life, as to any time you tell them to do anything and they just say, why? And you give an answer and they say, why? And so then you try to explain a little further to help them understand why that's important, why they need to eat their food, why they can't pee in their pants, whatever it may be, right? And you begin to navigate through this and you try to take time to answer the why, because we do understand something. That if they get the why, if they have understanding behind the instructions, if there is a reason behind the rule, it will prevent them from rebellion, right? Because rules without reason often equals rebellion. And so we understand that them having the vision of the rule, that our heart is for them and not against them, can hopefully down the road prevent conflict as they really understand why it is we are insisting that they do what we're telling them to do. But that's not the way it works out, right? You take your time and you explain it to them, and then typically it's just still, why? And then, as we all probably have done or heard from a parent in our life, at some point we get tired of the question why, and it just comes down to the same response, because I said so. Well, where does that come from? Well, at some point, because we're trying to determine whether or not they are really searching for understanding and vision, or whether or not they're just challenging our authority. And when it's clear that what they're doing is just challenging our authority, they just don't want to, then all of a sudden we have to lay out, you're going to, because I'm in charge of your life right now. And we begin to lay out the authority, but we don't want that. I don't think that as parents, we want to pull the authority card. Sometimes we get tired, and in our exhaustion and in our flesh, we resort to just declaring authority from the outset. But I think for the most part, we want our kids to get it. We want them to understand the vision, the why as to what's going on. And I think that that's true in the Lord for our lives too. He wants us to understand why. And he says, listen, Paul says, I have a trustworthy saying for you that everyone should accept. And what does he say? He says that we need to be committed to spiritual training for godliness, which will bring about benefits in this life and in the life to come. And knowing what you're doing and why you're doing, why you want to bring the things that we put on our list and bring those things to life, knowing the why is so important, because he says when you know the why, look at what he told Timothy that we will do. He says when we know the why, when we get the vision as to what the Lord wants for us and what his plans for us are in 2020, then we will work hard. And that work hard isn't just the idea of really, when you look it up, it has the idea of working to exhaustion. Now, for most of us, when it comes to our New Year's resolutions, we commit to them and we get fired up and pumped up and we have this grand vision. We're going to get up every day and we're going to run 5 miles and I'm going to do this and I'm going to change everything. I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to lay out this discipline structure with my kids. We're going to get up every day. We're going to read our Bibles, and you have this great vision and you begin to put it into practice for day 1, day 2, and then after a week, right? Just it's over. Because what happened? In your mind and in your spirit, you had a great vision. And then once you started to step into the vision, you also realized that you have a flesh. You have a body that reminded you, pie is good. Bluebell is delicious. And as you begin to try to step into those things, you begin to realize that there is a war between what your heart wants, what your spirit wants, and a flesh that wants something completely different. That stands in opposition to what you really want in your heart versus what your body tells you that you want to do. I was reminded of that last night as I was watching the semifinals of the college football playoffs and thinking about how much those athletes had to put themselves through in a year. That they because of the goal set before them and a coach who constantly put the vision before them that if we commit to doing these things, if we exhaust ourselves in practice, if we work hard, if we push ourselves to the point of not being able to do anymore, that there is a goal out there, that we will come together as a team, and that what is possible is a national championship and all the things that come with it. And as he continues to put the goal out there before them, you see these athletes who come together and are literally on some level seemingly willing to risk their lives for their team and for the end goal because they get the vision. And the Lord says, listen, in order for you to really experience the joys that I have for you in 2020, you are going to have to work yourself to exhaustion. You're going to have to be willing to continue to struggle, and the struggle is going to be real. That struggle that it's talking about is the struggle of people looking in on your goals and trying to tear you down. Being reviled, being chided, being broken down through people's words when the goals that we have, especially as believers, don't make sense to the rest of the world. And that when you set out a path for your kids, when you make a commitment to love your kids through discipline and not let them get away with things or not let them have certain things unless it accomplishes the goal and the dreams and the visions that you and the Lord have for your kids' lives. And so maybe they aren't behaving well and you take their phone away, or you're not willing to let them have a phone, or you take their keys away. You're not going to let them drive unless they're responding. And the world's going to look at you and be like, that's crazy. Why are you doing that? Why are you having such standards for your kids? You don't need to do that. They're going to rebel, be their friend, be this, whatever. And for the most part, when you stand for what God says is good, when you try to put into practice the things that you put on your list, you're going to be chided for it. You're going to be torn down, and this year is going to be tough. The only reason that we will stick with it is if we keep the end in sight. And that's why what's so important is that if we are going to accomplish the goals that the Lord has for us in 2020, the first of 3 steps that we need to do is number 1, know your vision. Know your vision. Make sure we understand the why. Because just wanting to work out so that you look good, it's really going to be difficult when your body's going to be telling you something different. When you hit the gym and it's going to be feeling this way, that's not really the motivation that we need. But if you get connected with God's plan and purpose for your life. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, let's keep going. All right, here. We'll come back to that in a second. All right. Proverbs 29:18 says this. What a powerful passage. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Now that word vision isn't just this idea of this floaty dream that we have as a family to do this thing or to see this, or wouldn't it be nice if we could take this family vacation, or wouldn't it be great if we had this thing in our backyard, or wouldn't it be great if we were able to move into this home or drive this kind of car or do this thing or sit around the dinner table and just share all of our deepest emotions and have that kind of stuff. That's not the kind of vision that he's talking about. What he is talking about here in Proverbs is where there is no vision, where there is no divine revelation. When we get disconnected from the plans that God has for you, when we forget to stop and to say, God, what is it that you want from me and my family this year? The Bible says that people perish. It's like a team that sets out to the goal. These teams that are setting out trying to win a national championship, that in the middle of the year, if they aren't constantly having the vision put before them, then all of a sudden when they're at practice and they're pushing themselves and they're driving hard, at some point, the flesh speaks up and says, why are you doing this? And if there's not a strong vision, a strong why in front of that, then the flesh wins, and we begin to buy in and say, why am I doing this? And the team begins to fight amongst itself, and instead of trying to accomplish a common goal, we begin to have infighting, as instead of looking for the team's interest, we begin to look out for self-interest. And when a team begins to become guided by self-interest instead of team interest, it perishes, it falls apart. It no longer has the ability to accomplish the goals that it set out to accomplish. And the same thing is true in our lives. When we stop connecting with the Lord and receiving divine revelation from him, stopping to pray and say, God, what is it that you have for my life in 2020? Then when the going gets tough, when it's time to push through to exhaustion, and our body says, why are you going to do that? Why are you going to get up and spend that extra time with your kids. Why not take the extra 20 minutes? Is it really that big of a deal? When we lose sight of the why for whatever that is for you, then the flesh wins. So knowing your vision becomes critical. What is the why then? Oh, Ephesians 3, 16 through 19 says this. Paul says, as he was praying for the church in Ephesus, casting vision for them, he says, I pray that out of his, God's glorious riches, that he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, all of us coming together, being connected in love, may have power. Let's come back to that word in a second. Together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. And to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Whoa, 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 whoa. Do you get the why? Do you see it here on the vision that Paul was speaking to the church in Ephesus? He says, listen, as a church, I'm praying for you that the love of Christ will fill your hearts and establish us together as a church in love, rooted and established and connected in love. The love of Christ will seep into your families and root and establish you in love, that you might have power. And that word power in the Greek is the word dynamis, D-Y-N-A-M-I-S, similar to the word dynamic. That we might have dynamic power. The same kind of power that is used, that Paul describes, is the same power that rose Jesus from the dead. The power of the resurrection, the power to bring dead things to life is what is available and what the vision is for you in 2020, to see relationships that have been dead come to life, to see people who are far from God come to life, to see a budget and debt and connections in your relationships that you thought were dead forever to come to life, because the power of the resurrection lives in you. Dynamis lives in you. And Paul says that when we root and establish ourselves together in love as a church and a family, when we receive that divine revelation from God, then what is it that happens? Oh man, he says, what my prayer is that you will see this, that you will grasp and that you will know how wide and deep the love of Christ is for you. This kind of love that surpasses knowledge. Whatever it is that your plans and dreams are for your 2020, I promise you, it is not nearly as grand and great as what the Lord has planned for you. If you will submit your steps and your ways to him and your family and your job and your finances to him in 2020, he wants to take you to the kind of fulfillment that surpasses knowledge. So whatever it is that you wrote down on your list, let me ask you this question that you're dreaming of, that you want to accomplish for 2020. Is it going to bring the kind of fulfillment in your life that surpasses people's understanding? Because if it's not, then you're settling for something far less than what God has planned for you in 2020. You see, because I can fathom what having an in-shape, fit body will do for you. So guess what? That doesn't surpass knowledge. I can fathom what having a startup business in 2020 or making new wealth and what kind of fulfillment that will bring into your life. I can fathom that. I can comprehend that. What God says that he has for you when you connect yourselves to his love and his purpose for your life is a love and a fulfillment that is so great that it surpasses knowledge. And beyond that, he says what? What is it that surpasses knowledge? That you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. And I'm going to tell you something, church, and I do not say this from a place of boastfulness, but I can say this with confidence. I lived this in 2019. It doesn't mean that you have a year without problems and struggles and faults and things, but it is a promise from God's word that when you submit yourself and your family and your relationships to him, no matter what you walk through, when you walk through with him, you can overcome and you can find a joy in any circumstance. No matter what trial or sorrow or financial thing that you're going through, when you are connected to his purpose, you experience a fulfillment that goes beyond what people can understand. That goes beyond knowledge, which is why we will be made fun of. which is why we'll be persecuted when we make a commitment to invest into things that the world says that doesn't make any sense. But we're not looking for things that make sense. We're looking for a joy that goes beyond comprehension and is promised to anyone who submits their life completely to the Lord. And that's why it's not only about knowing your vision, but it's also about making an investment. It's about planting seeds in the areas that the Lord brings to your heart and mind that need investment. As it says in 2 Corinthians 9:6, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. And whoever sows generously will also reap generously. So what does it mean to make an investment? Well, what does that look like? Is that a financial investment? Well, on some level, of course it is, because where you spend your money, you're gonna be invested into. One of my oldest son is, he's really committed and loves baseball. And so we've made an investment for him to be able to do select baseball. And let me tell you something, that's an investment. It's an investment of time and resources and every other kind of thing. And if you have a kid in any kind of sport, especially at a competitive level, you understand the kind of investment that's there and necessary for your family. And because of the financial investment that we have into that, then yeah, we're gonna make a commitment to be there, to see him, our family's gonna move their weekend things around to be able to be at where he's at, to get him to the practices, to make sure that he's there, because there is a financial investment in that. And so is making an investment a big part of seeing God's plan and purpose come to your life in 2020? For sure. As Pastor Kerry talked about a couple weeks ago, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where you're spending your resources is also gonna get the investment of your time and your attention. So no doubt about it, changing where we make our investments financially in 2020 is probably a part of finding the fulfillment that surpasses knowledge. But it's not just about that. It is also about your time and your resources, about investing into hard conversations, connecting with one another, being willing to do what is difficult, even though it may be hard. Making a commitment to use the things that the Lord has given you to honor him. Because really that's what it's all about, right? Because what happens when we stop doing that? Now I know for most of us who, for this season, we were able to experience the joy of Christmas and the joy of gift giving. And for a lot of us in here, we're parents who went through a lot of sacrifice, and we made a major investment at Christmas into our kids, getting them the gifts that they were crying for, right? They were dreaming for, the things that were on the top of the list, the things that kept them from being able to go to sleep that night at just the possibility that it might be under the tree. And maybe it was a race car for a younger kid, or an Apple Watch, or a phone, or whatever it may be. But let's just say it's a race car. And you got that race car that your kid wanted, and you wrapped it up, and you put it under the tree, and you went shopping for it, and you made an investment into time of going and finding that thing and researching for it, or just ordering it on Amazon, whatever it was, right? But you made an investment into getting it and wrapping it and putting it under the tree and knowing them well enough to know that was gonna be something that they were gonna be excited about. And you've got that thing and you put it under the tree and you spent that resources, you spent that money, you maybe even got the upgraded one. You sacrificed a little bit to get that thing because you could not wait to see their face when they opened that gift. And a lot of us, we experience that, the joy of when they opened that present and it's, oh my gosh, and you see them and then you get the thing that you really got the present for in the first place. When they come over and they give you that big hug and they say, thanks, Mom and Dad, I love you. Some of you are like, I did not get that. In fact, Mark, my story was a little bit different than that. I did sacrifice. I did all those things. I put that gift under the tree. And when they opened it, instead of it being something that brought us together, it seemed to have the opposite effect. And they actually began to enjoy that thing more than they did our family. When I gave them that gift, they actually disappeared out of the room. Began playing with that car or checking that social media and lining all this stuff up and doing these things. And when I would say, hey, guess what? It's time for Christmas dinner. Come in here. I can't come to dinner because I got to play with my car. I got to fix the wheel. I got to do this thing. I got to send this message. I got to send this thing. I got to set this thing up. And all of a sudden, what you begin to realize is you made an investment into something that all of a sudden, instead of bringing the family closer together, is now bringing the family further apart. And as a good parent, what you probably did is you began to say, did I do the right thing at all by giving this to them? because I gave it to them as an investment out of my love, but they are not using it to draw themselves closer to God and closer to other people. They are actually using the investment that I made in their life to isolate themselves. So as any good parent, what we do is kaboom! We get rid of it. Not because we're angry at them, but because we need them to understand that we didn't give it to them so that they could isolate. We gave it to them out of a desire for them to know how much we love them and how much we want to connect with them. And if anything stands in the way of our connection with them, then we would get rid of it. Don't we know that's how a loving Father God looks at us? And says, listen, I have given you so much, whatever that may be. And for each of us, it may be different, but God has made an investment into us that we might use whatever he has given us in our lives to be more connected to him and more connected to each other. And God, as a loving Father, when we take the things that he's given us and we use it to satisfy our wants and the things that are good for us and to satisfy our needs, God says, I love you too much to let you keep it. And I love you too much to continue to bless you in it, because it is standing between what you were created for, the kind of fulfillment that surpasses knowledge. The Bible says in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. And so how do we become a trustworthy person who's making investments in the right kinds of things in 2020? The truth is a hard truth. You see, the trustworthy are willing to give an account of their investments. They aren't afraid to live an open life, declaring their intentions. You want to prove yourself to be trustworthy before the Lord, for him to really bless whatever it is that you have in 2020, your relationships, your finances, the things that are important to you. Whatever it is that the Lord is putting on your heart, wherever it is that you feel like you need to make an investment into someone's life or into something financially, whatever that may be, to breaking a habit, making an investment to improve yourself, to work out, whatever that may be, if you aren't willing to share that, to openly live your life out in front of others and to make an investment in that way, then it's likely that you're not trustworthy. I love my boys so much. Most of us love our kids like crazy, right? We do. It's what we are as parents. Most of us, we all love our kids. But when you tell your kid, hey, listen, I need you to go upstairs and clean your room right now. And just a few minutes later, they come downstairs and you say, hey, did you clean your room? And they go, I sure did. And you say, okay, I'm gonna go check. And they say, please don't do that. And you say, no, I'm gonna go check. And then all of a sudden they disappear. Typically, you know that means they probably didn't do what they were supposed to do. Or if they say, please don't go check, and then you say, why? And they say, because I want you to trust me. Don't you trust me, they might say? To which we should say, I'll trust you more after I check your room. And we walk up and we check their work. Because why? Because trust is earned through verification. I love my kids enough to go and check. It's not the fact that I don't, it's the idea of saying that I love them so much that I won't check is not love at all. I love them enough to build a deeper relationship by asking and then checking. If your kids are saying, I love you so much, and mom, trust me, mom and dad, my phone is so great, please don't check it, love them enough to get into their phone in 2020. Dive into their world. Make an investment into their time, because trust is earned through verification. You want to experience a connected life? It's not about being trustworthy isn't about saying I'm doing all the right things, just please don't look. Trust is built upon I'm doing the right things. Everyone look. Because I want to live a life that honors the Lord. So I'm not afraid of the accountability that comes with that. That's why the last point is so important. It's not just about making investments, it's about setting up accountability. Whatever it is that is on your list, we need to share it with someone else. I love what it says in 1 John 1, 5-7. It says, this is the message we have heard from him, God, and declare to you. God is light, in him there is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, then we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. What is it to walk in the light? Is it to walk perfectly? No, Because John also reminds us that if we claim to have no sin, we are liars and the truth is not in us. So it's not about living a perfect life. Setting up accountability means that we're going to walk in the light. We are going to live an open life before each other. Nothing hidden. Whatever investments that you need to do this year, you need to make a commitment to reach out to an extended family member, to fix your marriage, to do some things differently with your kids, to do some different things financially, to begin to pay off some debt, to begin to change or get rid of some addictions, to deal with some things that aren't good, to get rid of some things that you need to get rid of. The truth is that if you just make that a mental list and say, yeah, I'm okay, yeah, I got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things in my mind I'm ready to do, you probably will never do them. And you will prove to yourself that you really aren't trustworthy with the things the Lord has given you. What do we need to do if we're really serious about bringing to life the things that God has inspired us to put on that list? We have to tell someone. We have to walk in the light. We have to choose to live an open life. And that's a tough truth. We have to begin to take action. I love what it says in James 1. It says this: do not merely listen to the word. And we've heard a powerful scriptures today. And so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Don't you know the Lord wants to bless your 2020? He wants to bring the blessings that comes from knowing what you were created for, investing into the new habits that will get you there and sticking to them, and living a connected life that comes from sharing your commitment to those new habits with other people. That's what God wants for us in 2020, is to live the connected life that he has for us. Pastor Kerry is starting a powerful new series next week called Frozen Goals. All about melting the barriers that stand between us and stepping into those goals that the Lord's put on our hearts and our lives. Don't miss it. Bring a friend. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be a ton of fun too. But God wants to do something powerful in your life in 2020. And if we're really going to implement it, then please receive this challenge when I tell you whatever list it is that you've made today or you're committed to making over the next couple of days. Don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone trustworthy. And let's make a commitment to not just tell the Lord we love him. Let's show him how much we love him by putting into practice the purpose that he's created us for. And in so, receiving the kind of joy that we literally can't even comprehend right now. That in a year from now, not that we will have lived a difficult, free life in 2020, but we will have lived a life full of joy and purpose no matter what circumstances come our way in 2020. And the joy that comes with it. Let's pray. God, we love you. And God, we aren't just going to tell you that we love you. As a church, we're committed to showing you that we love you in 2020. God, we get it. You promise us benefits in this life and in the life to come. A joy that comes from being connected to the love of Christ that goes beyond our understanding. God, help us to connect with that joy in a powerful new way like never before by committing to make investments into the thing that you've brought into our heart and mind. Whether that's the relationships or finances or whatever it is, God, help us to follow through with faith and with courage. And God, we know it's going to be hard to do because you've given us a big vision, but we also have a faulty flesh. So God, we pray that you would give us the courage to share the things that you've put on our heart with trustworthy people, with someone who loves us and who will help hold us accountable to give an account of where we've said we will make our investments. Because we have to? Nope. But because we love you. So God, may I be the first one to tell you, be prepared to be loved by Woodlands Church like never before in 2020. You are good and you are worthy of our praise and our commitment. You do not require us to love you, but we love you. And like a kid who's received a great Christmas present, God, we've received so many great gifts from you, and we want to use everything you've given us, every relationship and every resource to honor you this year like never before. So be prepared to be loved because you're worthy of it. We thank you. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.